Thank you for those who are jumping on. I see a few of our folks from Leicester Public Schools. I see a few folks from different parts of the country, which is great and awesome to see. Messages are flying through, and this is someone's here from Mexico. Lewis, thanks for joining us from Mexico.
Awesome.
Kind of cool. Last time we had someone from Hawaii, and I hope she joins. I see Christine just right. She gets off moderating for the day. She does. She's probably out running or doing something fun while making these folks work today for free. But you know, Chris, thanks for joining us from New York or your cabin, wherever it looks like you are. We have some Texas folks here. I don't see my video or mute settings as I usually would in Zoom. So a couple things might be different, Jonathan. Again, we're in the webinar feature, so you might not have as many features as a participant as you would be as an active participant. So the webinar features, you're only going to see down at the bottom the opportunity to chat, to add questions to the question and answer, because this isn't a collaborative Zoom. It's today in Mexico is Teacher Day. So happy Teacher Day for all of our viewers from Mexico. That's fabulous. eTwins are already tweeting someone, so that's awesome. So we are going to get started as we are 1:04, and we are going to have a hard stop at 2 because I do want to respect the panelists' time, your time as well. My name is Matthew Joseph. I am the Curriculum and Instruction Director in Leicester Public Schools. Leicester is about 40 minutes, no traffic, west of Boston. And part of doing this weekly is to support our staff and our learning in Leicester. One of the things I thought about is in the past few weeks, we have been doing this professional development on Fridays and just sharing some different instructional tools like Flipgrid. And last week was Wakelet, and we use Newsela, we use EdPuzzle and Padlet. And we've done a lot of how-tos. And one of the things that I have liked is going to different events across the country and seeing how other educators utilize these tools. And that's what I wanted to bring today, is utilizing these tools. And one of the things that I was thinking about is that my friend Adam File, who's the tech director in Atlanta area, once said to me, 1-to-1 is just a math problem. You have a certain amount of students, you give them all devices. That does not change pedagogy. That does not change teaching and learning. It solves that math problem. And now in remote learning, when we're trying to get all of our students' devices, we also have to ensure that we're looking in enhancing instruction. And that's what these educators here across the country are going to bring to you today, some suggestions. So I'd love for you all to introduce yourselves. Thank you so much for coming. And then we're going to get into sharing some resources.
All right, I'll get started. My name is Jenny Long, and my other half is down below me, Celie Clark, and together we are Jenny, and we usually do a high five. So yeah, there you go.
I don't know where she's at or on the screen.
But we are instructional technologists from Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District, which is a little bit north of Fort Worth, Texas. So we are super excited to be here today.
Awesome.
Hello everyone, I'm Alberto.
And I'm Mario.
We are the E-Twins together, like they are generally together. We are originally from Spain, and right now we are in Utah.
And I teach 6th grade and he teaches 5th grade. So as he said, we are originally from Spain, so that's why we have this thick accent. And but yeah, we are we love to be here with all of you and to have 1 hour of fun and learning.
So thank you so much for the invitation, for the invite to be here. Happy Teachers Day in Mexico. So to everyone who is watching from there.
I'm David Hennel. I'm the tech director at a 6 through 12 independent school in Maryland for girls. I originally grew up in Baltimore, so I may have a different type of accent, but you probably hear some words that you may not have heard before. I'm excited to be here. You know, I'm fortunate to work at a school that started 1-to-1 back in 2002 for teachers and 2003 for our students. So we had a wealth of experience and growing pains. We were with Microsoft back when it was called Live at EDU. And so I'm just looking forward to sharing some of my thoughts with you today.
So I guess it's up to me now. I'm Chris Casal. I'm originally from New York City, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City teacher for a long time now in the suburbs. I'm not actually in the cabin, but I'm coming to you live from my kitchen where my children are walking behind me getting snacks and lunch. So that is the background. You know, I've been teaching a long time, 17 years, always a tech teacher. Apple, you know, we in the city, we had iPads originally in about 2010, you know, G Suite, all that kind of stuff. So been heavily immersed in the one-to-one type of environment, as well as trying to give kids and teachers the ability to function at home even before we got into the situation. So trying to always have a mind to kind of plan for the ability to not necessarily need one another to teach, even though being with one another is obviously the best. And just psyched to be here to sort of share what we've been doing with Padlet, as well as learn about the things like Wakelet, which I'm not very familiar with. So this should be a great hour. Thanks for having me.
My name is Heather Staple. I am a grade 6 ELA teacher in Leicester. We are fortunate to be a one-to-one program in Leicester. And this year, my professional learning goal was to run a flipped classroom. So who knew that I would be completely thrown into it with a pandemic, but I certainly have learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to sharing some things with you today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. I've seen that live in action, Heather teaching her class and her students fully engaged. So you are in for a treat today. She's a high-level educator. And I want to jump into some of the tools that we have shared and get into some of the lessons where one of the first professional elements that we did was on Flipgrid and talking about how this enhances learning, gives students a voice. It allows students to share video, teachers share video. And I've seen so many wonderful resources. So I brought a few people who I've seen both in person and online share some resources, and I'd love to bring them in. I know Jenny and Celine, we did a presentation talking about Flipgrid down in Texas, and you shared some things like Principal Day Grid, screen recordings, morning messages. I'd love for you to share a few things that you think we all could learn from and use in our capacity.
Okay, we'll be happy to do that. I think, and you mentioned a couple, I think being able to celebrate still in this time that we're in, and not be able to be in person, but be able to use Flipgrid as a platform for celebrations has been just, I mean, even for me personally, my daughter turned 17, and so I had a lot of her friends and teachers and youth leaders and everything respond, and it was just so touching. And I've seen so many of those opportunities flying around. And you mentioned Principal's Day, so we had all of our students, you know, say a word to our principal for Principal's Day, and just things of appreciation that we can still see our students sharing. And that's one of my favorite ways that I've seen Flipgrid used right now too. These are just some other ideas. One of them, we love the shorts camera in Flipgrid. So check that out if you're not familiar with the shorts camera, but you can use the shorts feature alone without even having to do a grid or a topic, and you can record your screen. So that is a great way to provide your students that lesson where you're teaching, and super easy to use in Flipgrid. Morning message.
A lot of our teachers aren't necessarily like using the grid in Flipgrid. They just want to create quick videos or even tutorial videos. So they just record a short and then put it into their LMS, whatever it is that they're using, either Canvas or Teams. So it really is a great way to just get information out.
Our teachers have also been doing a morning message, our elementary teachers, especially in a way of communicating daily with our students. So Flipgrid has been a great platform for them to be able to do that, and that feedback from students back and forth and being able to have that conversation. Joke of the day. I know my son's teacher, she has them do a joke. She does a joke of the day and then encourages the students to leave a joke as well. So that's been, you know, kind of a fun opportunity for the students as well. And we love, I think.
Good. I love seeing, we watched a webinar with Holly Clark and the Merrills on Facebook, and I've linked it here and we'll throw it into the chat too. And Joe Merrill showed a great example of how he's using the whiteboard in Flipgrid to teach lessons. And so he'll throw up emojis and make them counters on the screen. And so he'll throw a stack of them and then drag them over as he counts and as he works out math problems. So it was a great way to use all the features within Flipgrid in a teaching way.
We love that. We showed my son's teacher, and she immediately took that back and made a lesson the next day. So that was exciting to see that transformation of learning knowledge and then applying it to her classroom. So super easy to learn. And we love also the Disco library. So there's a gallery of already pre-made lessons in Flipgrid, as well as mixtapes, which allows you to take some of your favorite responses that students have made, or your favorite grids and topics, and put them together in a mixtape.
Jenny, can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah.
So that sounds awesome. The mixtape, could you give an example? Like when would you use that?
Well, like if you were, we did it one time we were teaching a session, and it was on, what was it? It was a Region 11 SLE where they had to do, it was a flip hunt. It was a flip hunt. So the students all responded that they were adults, but they had to do different activities. And so we compiled all of them together. So it was just some of our greatest highlights of things. And it was also from TCA and FETC, we did those flip hunts. And so we just put all of our memorable moments together. So anytime that you would want to just showcase and highlight some of your favorite responses on your grids, I think that's a great way to put them all in a mixtape.
And that's taking from multiple grids into one. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
there's a little drop down.
Right. So if you're teaching the same subject across multiple classes, and they've all, justified their answers and showed their justification, you can go in and collect those and put them into mixtapes to share out with your students.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks. These are some great ideas. And as we kind of loop back to the beginning here, one of the things I want to share with everybody is all of the resources that we share here today, or most of them, not every single one, but resources that we share here today, we're also going to put out on the Sunday email I send to everybody. You'll have links to certain things. You have links to support. So I know Celie said she might throw something in the chat. If you happen to miss it, I'm going to send everything out. Now, Mariano Alberto, I see you have your Flipgrid shirt on, so you must be utilizing this within your class. And you're 5th and 6th grade teachers, so you're in the classroom each and every day. Could you share some of the things that you have used with your students?
Yeah,
Yes,
so
sure.
we use Flipgrid. Well, we are going to share our screen. So we use Flipgrid a lot, but lately we are using it mainly to work on the social emotional learning, because, during all of this remote learning thing and all of that, I think it's been a challenge, kind of manage those emotions, those students' emotions and all of that.
So we need to keep in mind that they are struggling. As we are struggling as teachers, as like families, so students are struggling too. So we need to support them through this difficult situation. And sometimes content, it's not about content. So, and this is one of those situations that it's not all about content. So there are more things that we need to keep in mind to fully support these students.
So we're gonna share some examples, and these examples can be used in remote learning or even face-to-face learning, doesn't matter. So the first one is our challenges. We have weekly challenges in Flipgrid. So here are some examples, like a virtual show and tell, they get their pets and they play with them and all of that. We have a soccer challenge, a yoga challenge, an earthquake story. So what we do is we send to them a weekly challenge, and you can go there, to the soccer challenge. And the first thing that teachers do is record ourselves doing the challenge, okay? Me doing some soccer and all of that. So when the students get into the grid, into the topic, they see their teachers doing the challenge. So it motivates them a lot. So they are very into doing that and they love it.
It's a good way to still provide like meaningful opportunities for them to have fun with their classmates, with their teacher, kind of adding that missing piece that we have in this remote learning environment that we are using right now. Also, we like flip hands. So what's a flip hand, Mario? We love flip hands in the classroom and also in this remote learning setting.
Yeah, so we use it all the time. The flip hand is like a scavenger hunt, but inside of Flipgrid, okay? So how do you create this? The first thing that you need to create is one grid. And we did this flip hunt for we teachers, and it was focused on sales, social emotional learning, but you can do flip hunts about whatever you want, about any topic, any content, any subject, whatever.
To review a test, to do an activity, whatever. So first thing you need to do is set up a grid with the name of the flip hunt, and then you create different topics. So each of these topics are a different challenge that students need to do and record themselves doing the challenge.
And how do you create this topic? You put the title, you write the title, and then the points that it is worth. For example, the first one is find it, and it's worth 30 points. So if we get into the topic, what you do is write the title, the points, and then a small description with instructions or what they need to do to pass that challenge, to complete that challenge.
So for example, this one is find anything in your house that makes you happy and share why. It can be anything. So in this situation, in this challenge, what students will do is find anything and film themselves like sharing why this makes them happy. So the points are really important because we or teachers just give students like 20 or 30 minutes to complete as many challenges as they can. So after those 30 minutes,
they can't keep going. So this is very important because they need to come up with a strategy, okay? Because the more points the challenge worth, the harder the challenge is. So they need to come up with a strategy like, okay, what do? We do the hard challenges first and then the easy ones, or how do we do it? So they come up with a strategy and then they have 20 or 30 minutes to complete all of these challenges. We love to do it in the school, in the classroom, but in the school or in the campus, because you can see them with the iPad or you know, like walking around the school, you know.
Trying to find those things that they need to do. And it is really, really good, like after the flip hand is done, to go back to the classroom and review the videos with them, laugh with them, have fun. These challenges can be about anything. So it can be about content. So for example, landforms. So find like a landform that will be studying around the building or around the campus. So they can, like, it can be about
whatever.
So Mario, one of the things I wanted to jump in here, I think one of the other things in this is one of the challenges, and you don't have to open it, but one of the challenges I read was not necessarily online, that because we are in the remote learning phase and we're trying to have students have that balance of both online learning and physical learning, you had challenges to go find things around the house or find things in nature or take hikes. So I think combining both of those is also pretty impactful as well. So
exactly. And this leads us to our last idea, and it's about STEAM, okay? So as you said, it doesn't have to be everything online. Students need to do other kind of activities that they don't need a computer to do them. That is very important for us. So we have a weekly challenge about STEAM as well. And it is related normally with what we are studying with the content. We are studying right now the Middle Ages. So 1 week they had to create a catapult and explain the catapult, the characteristics.
Like how they built it and everything. So this is really good because we truly think that remote learning is not about having a child in front of the computer for 4 hours, right?
That's the same that remote learning in our classroom. It is the same that in our classroom.
We need to provide those analogic activities for them to do, like, that don't require technology or don't require to be in front of a computer.
Exactly. So you can.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important to share. Some of these I think are going to be in the resources that you send out. So that's awesome. And one of the things as I transition to Dave, what I found, Dave invited me to participate in a Flipgrid professional development for adults as well. So Dave, I want to loop you in here and now to kind of share some of the things that you would like to talk about as we move forward.
Yeah, so, well, first we can talk a little bit about that EdCamp. We did an EdCamp remote learning, which I thought was incredible. And we were able to collaborate with, we had over 1,200 participants, and we had a grid of topics because obviously we wanted to know, everyone's wondering, how do we keep up with all of these uncertainties? How do we engage students? How do we do observations, et cetera? So it was really nice to use Flipgrid in that fashion and be able to hear the voices of so many people from primary school, secondary, et cetera. One of the things I wanted to kind of highlight, because not only, you know, is Flipgrid important now, but when we go back to school, what's it going to look like? So if you can see my screen, I have a lesson plan that I worked with, talking through some of the details with Mrs. Hake. Deb Hake is a teacher in San Diego. She's not in my school. And for those that follow me, you will know she's my adopted sister on Twitter. So I feel like we have this connection. And what she did was a Trail of Tears with Flipgrid, where it tracked the migration that happened with the American Indians. And let's see if I can get to the next slide here. What we were able to do is we were able to post, or what Deb was able to do is post QR codes at each stopping point. So there was a trail. The students were able to interact as they're going through the trail, and they would click the QR code to see the video that represented a significant point in that time. And the cool thing was in the envelope, as you see next to the sign, was basically a fate card. So as the students would come to the QR code and watch the video, they may wind up surviving, making it to the next point. They may have died of starvation. There may have been all these different things that happened, but then the students would then record the videos and their emotions back into it to kind of strengthen the lesson plan and move on, which I thought was a really unique way to kind of combine, the engagement on the lesson, as well as some of the reaction videos where, there were people who were writing back that they survived the trail. Some that something happened and they were sad and they kind of went through the emotion of they'd have to kind of leave their friends behind and keep going on to go through this. So I thought that was a really unique way to take advantage of being able to use Flipgrid to empower and strengthen the lesson plan while giving students voice. So I just wanted to kind of share that one out.
Awesome. No, that's great. And, bringing up student voice, and I see, your shirt saying Flipgrid is a piece of the student voice, but I also want to move into another tool, Padlet, that is talking about student voice as well in a different capacity. And just for full transparency, when I started to talk about doing some professional development for Leicester, the first one that I went to attend was done by Chris. Chris invited me in. He let me see how he was running professional development for his district, and one of his teachers showed and really helped me to, develop how I wanted to run that for Leicester. So I appreciate him doing that. But besides seeing how to use some of the online platforms and Padlet, I saw the power of the work that they were doing. So I wanted Chris to jump in and share some of the stuff that they were using with Padlet.
Yeah, thank you. Padlet's been a big thing for us for a long time. And anyone who doesn't know what Padlet is, I'll give you the quick down and dirty of it. It's essentially like an online bulletin board. So this is just a basic Padlet I created. It takes about 2 seconds to make one. And you double click to add something. So you double click and it basically makes this sticky. And a lot of times what we'll do for students is we'll create the Padlets and then give students access to them. And the title might be their initials, right? That way they're not putting any identifiable information up there. They don't need to log into anything. And then this is, the point of the post. And what's cool about that is it's literally like putting the yellow stickies up on the big chart paper or on the bulletin board or on the whiteboard, wherever it is. What's also great about this is you can add and attach things to it. So you can take a picture, you can do a selfie, you can do a video, you can upload things. It actually gives you a ton of options and ability to add content into this board. And it's just as simple as literally the teacher creating a link, giving it to the kids clicking the link and double clicking to add something. So, how have we used this? So what we've done is a number of different things. Like we'll do practice posts with the kids to get them in 3rd grade used to just posting things where they post information. What we've also done is had them do it in relation to cultural universal projects, where as they're researching, if they're researching in groups, the teacher will give a Padlet for each country or each group of content researchers. And the kids could then, as they research independently, they could share with their group of 3 or 4 students the different information they come across. They could also do it in terms of the writing process of coming up and adding and attaching an animal if they're doing animal adaptations and they want to sort of distill down what their research was into a certain level of, boxes and bullets, key ideas, key phrases before they go on to their final project. One of the things that we've done most recently, which is really cool, was since we had this, and this was 3rd grade, and we've used it 3rd, 4th, and 5th, is we've done, and actually before I sort of do that one, I'll show you this one. A lot of times we'll use Padlet in conjunction with other things. So this is just a poster I made about book clubs with Padlet and the way we use it, which is teachers will make these different Padlets, like let's say 3 or 4, based on reading groups. Students will sit in their reading groups either together during the school day or through homework, post ideas, jots on the stickies on Padlet about character, setting, whatever it may be related to their book club. So then as they come together in school, they can talk about the Padlet, talk about the ideas that they posted to come up with larger ideas, which then will work into a larger piece of writing that they then can post on their blog. So we use Padlet, and we've always used Padlet sort of in conjunction with the writing process as sort of like a digital idea hub. During this pandemic, what we did was we said, all right, we always have this poetry festival. And how do we extend the feeling of school, and how do we not miss out on one of these key things of school during all this? Because the poetry festival always happened at the end of April. And where I am, our building, we were actually shut down back in March 8th. It was a Sunday night. The county health department shut us down because we had a couple staff members test positive. So we shut down without notice, without warning, without preparation, about a week to 2 weeks or 3 weeks ahead of other districts, depending on where they were located. So we said, how can we make people feel that connection, and what do we have at our disposal that the kids know how to use, that everyone is familiar with, where we can sort of create this and recreate this community event when we're not together. So what we did was we created the virtual poetry festival, right? So a little website, basic Google site, nothing fancy, right? But easy to use. So then what you do is you have these buttons. Now, if you're a 2nd grade class, 3rd grade class, whatever it is, you click on a button, teacher, it opens up a Padlet. So then this becomes the teacher's virtual poetry sharing wall. So what we did was gave the students directions, sent home like a tutorial, sent home, emailed, posted on class blogs and teacher websites and stuff, directions on how to create things and how to post them to the Padlet. And what was great about this was it became virtual, obviously, because it's Padlet, we're not in school, but kids had the flexibility to create the poetry in different ways. So they could hand write it, hand draw it, take a picture of it, post it. If they scanned it, typed it, they could post it. When you go to the upper grades had a lot of different ways of doing it. Some just copy and pasted the text in. Some took Google Docs and made them into PDFs and uploaded the PDFs. In 5th grade, they actually used Adobe Spark Video. And what they did was they took their poems that they wrote in Google, made it a PDF so they could post it, because you can post essentially 2 things to a single sticky. So they uploaded the Padlet, but then we put their videos based on their poetry as a link in the Padlet. So the students were all able to post not just the poem that they wrote, and you click on it, it opens up and you can actually see what they wrote. There's a little bit of sort of artistic flair to it, but more importantly, you then could click on the link, and what the link would do is it would take you to the student reading their poem. It's still the same poem, still the same text, but what they did was they used Adobe Spark to give voice to it and give some, depth to it with some imagery, and there's a little bit of music behind it. And then that way they were able to use Padlet to post their work, both in a straight text way, but also putting in their actual voice, a little bit of that creativity. So we were able to approximate the in-person poetry festival where it would be hanging across the walls of the building. And we were able to do that by giving every class a wall on Padlet where teachers could post. And some kids, like I said, just did basic typing. Some took photos of things. Some went a lot more creative and did artistic drawings with other apps. This is definitely one of those sort of app smash situations where, you might have been using Wixie or, Google Drawing or whatever it might be. But the beauty of Padlet was super simple to share, super simple to post, very simple to put in multiple different bits of media into each item. And then it has this nice sense of community when you tie this together, either as a single class or as a group of students for a book club, or when you combine a bunch of them to do a big school-wide thing. That's
I would say that's awesome. I had a question. Well, Craig Shapiro had a question, and those who don't know, runs a great chat on Sunday nights, 7:30, #TeachPause, 7:30 Eastern time, so Lisa, don't be late. Or sorry, Jenny was late last time. Chris, one of the things the question was talking about in Padlet, because it has a free form flow to it, is there a specific one that you like to use better with students?
So it depends, actually. So this is a Padlet dashboard, and you can make, it depends on your version. If you had signed up years ago, I think you get about 25 for free. If you've signed up more recently, I think you only get 3 for free. They are giving discounts to districts. So we have a district license, so we have unlimited ones. It's one of our sort of core digital tools. When you go to make a new Padlet, it gives you these choices. So the wall is what we went for the Poetry Festival. And what that does is basically just sets up fixed blocking of whatever the next post is. It just kind of goes in the left, and then it creates these fixed blocks. The canvas is cool because you can actually connect. It's more free flow, and you can actually draw literal connections between different posts. So it's all about purpose. The stream is kind of like a Twitter feed or an old, sort of back channel, like today's meet type of vibe. So as you're posting it on the Padlet, it just goes in a chronological stream. The shelf is cool because they're fixed columns. So you could set up, the teacher could pre-set up fixed columns based on purpose, right? So like you're doing a reading club, the shelf version could have, character, setting, plot, whatever it is, and then everyone posts in these linear columns based on that. So a lot of it is just about making the one you think is the best for you. Now, the nice thing too about Padlet is this is the one I just made a little bit ago. The top right corner, so because Zoom is the way it is, our heads might be on that side. You kind of move them out of the way. But what you can do is with the gear is you can modify these and you can change the background. So you can customize it to meet your school's branding or whatever it is. What you can also do is turn comments on. And we'll do that with the book clubs, where basically when you turn the comments on, somebody could comment on a post. So not only can they be structured in a grid or free flowing, but people can post ideas, and then if you turn comments on, other people can then comment back, and you can have an ongoing sort of exchange of ideas using something that is equates to something very common, which is like the idea of the posting note parking lot on a piece of chart paper. So it's a nice approximation to something that's a familiar concept in school.
No, that's great, and just a great tool. And I've seen the document we've been working on, so Chris has a lot of resources for everyone. And one of the things that he said was this was one of his core tools, and it's one of ours as well in Leicester. And another one of our core tools is EdPuzzle. And I wanted to bring loop Heather in to share some of the tools that we've used through EdPuzzle. And EdPuzzle is an opportunity for you to bring in videos, create quizzes, and utilize video form and customize it to students. So Heather, I'd love for you to jump on and share some for us.
So I am fairly new to EdPuzzle, and I decided that I was just going to take the leap and give it a try. It is extremely user-friendly. There is a lot of information out there, so that you certainly don't have to reinvent the wheel and create your own videos. But you can create your own videos, or you can use videos that are already there and do your own voiceover as well. So it's a pretty universal tool. In using it and sort of polling my students, this was by far their favorite tool that I've introduced during remote learning. And they had a lot of feedback for me, particularly that they like being able to watch it at their own pace. They like being able to stop and watch the video again to make sure that they're gathering all the information or understanding everything. And they enjoy the way that the material is presented, both visually and auditorily. One of the tricks that I have found that is necessary for my students is to put a note at the beginning and the very end of the video to make sure that they're watching all the way through, so that they don't stop when they get to that final question and you still have 45 seconds of video left that they choose not to watch. EdPuzzle is really cool. You can include multiple choice questions, you can include short answer questions, or you can just add notes to ask them to do some critical thinking while they're watching the video. Most recently, I've introduced poetry, and obviously that would be a very interactive discussion in the classroom. So rather than creating a video of myself, I did sort of find some information out there to introduce rhyme and rhythm, introduce some of the poetic vocabulary that they're going to need to know moving forward into 7th grade. And in the classroom, what I like to do is I like to front load that vocabulary. So EdPuzzle gives a great opportunity to have them watch a video at home, you know, nothing lengthy, 5-7 minutes. Watch that video at home, get to know some of the vocabulary, get to know some of the jargon that they're going to hear in the classroom, and then prepare for an in-class discussion so that the time used with the teacher is more effective in small group or whole group learning as opposed to just working through vocabulary and things like that. What I really like using are the TED Ed videos. They're very age appropriate, so you don't have to spend a lot of time watching videos. Once you find the topic, you go through and they're already age appropriate. They're geared for your classroom. They meet the standards, which is excellent. In addition, they have multiple choice and short answer questions already available for you. So again, there's no need to really reinvent the wheel, but you can certainly edit them and use the lingo that you use in the classroom so that the kids are hearing the same information in the video that they're hearing in the classroom as well. Another great thing that I like about the EdPuzzle is that all of the information is housed in one place. So there's no more opening 100 Google Docs to find your kids' scores. That everything is in one place and it's really easy to use.
So one of the things
faculty that have been using it, I know some of the grade 6 team have been using it during remote learning, is that the multiple choice is scored for you, and as long as go ahead, Matt.
What I was going to say is just because I've seen you use this tool and see you really have great conversations with students, how have you incorporated feedback? Because I know that's something you've used and added feedback into EdPuzzle, because I know feedback is a big discussion with what we're doing too. How have you done that?
That's what I like about the open-ended questions is it gives you an opportunity to give that feedback right in EdPuzzle, as well as because it is paired with my Google Classroom, I can give that feedback in Google Classroom as well.
Awesome. And I think I cut you off saying something. Did you want to add something else? I think I jumped in and cut you off.
Just some feedback from the faculty that have started to use it during remote learning is it's been really positive. They like that it's easy to use. They like that the students are familiar with it. So moving forward as videos get longer or the curriculum becomes more challenging, that they're already familiar with the platform. And then moving forward, they can get more in-depth with the curriculum as well. The content on EdPuzzle is available to share with colleagues. So, you know, if you have multiple grades, multiple classrooms teaching the same grade, that content can be shared, which is really great.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed that the Help Center is really comprehensive. So there are a lot of great links. If you have any questions, EdPuzzle answers them all, and they provide you with a quick video tutorial to get you started and to move forward.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. And all of those are fabulous resources.
So that's all I have.
Okay, and I saw someone in the chat write that sometimes students get overloaded with a lot of different tools, and I think that's part of why we're doing this. And I know in Leicester, we really went slow to go fast and had our core 4 tools, which is what we're talking about today. The 4th one being Newsela. And if you saw a new person jump onto the screen, Christian from Newsela is also going to be sharing some Newsela resources. We have about 15 minutes left and we're going to jump in. One of the things that you said, Heather, was all in one place. So we're going to spend about the next like 7 minutes talking about a tool that we just shared last week with Leicester staff called Wakelet, which is not one of our core 4 tools, but it was a tool I found is incredibly helpful and efficient, especially during this time. And the more I got to use it, actually, first time I saw it was with Jenny and Salee down in a tech and learning event. And I was a slow person to get started with it. And once I did, I saw the impact and usefulness. So we shared it last week with our staff, and I'd love to have you share some of the resources or some of the lesson ideas that you have had. And Mario and Alberto, you guys are going to jump in next, and then Dave, share some of your Wakelet suggestions. We're going to go to Christian to talk a little about Newsela, and then everyone's going to get one kind of big thing as a takeaway as our last 15 minutes. See, we just all learn at the same time.
We'll make it quick. I know. And all of these tools and resources that we're sharing can really kind of do the same thing. So I think, like Craig was saying, it can get overwhelming. And like Slee mentioned in the chat too, we just encourage our teachers to just find a couple, own it, get good at those, and then, introduce more slowly. But we absolutely love Wakelet. I don't think we go a day without using it. Like anytime we send them, we put everything in a Wakelet.
On that note, Craig, also, I had a teacher in a Teams call just the other day thank me for that advice to her, because during this time she's been overwhelmed with distance learning, and she was like, I just kept coming back to find one app and own it and just use one thing. And so it really helped her, like, just remembering that right now, especially during distance learning. So that's kind of our go-to response with that.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of the same things that these other tools can do, Wakelet can do. You can put images and videos and text and links, and we just love that it's basically a student portfolio. Is one way that you can use it, and we use it as a portfolio of all of our ideas and our things that we share, all of our resources. You can curate anything. You can share it and collaborate and work together. Just a couple ideas: tutorials for your students, exit tickets, choice boards. We love putting YouTube videos in there because it actually removes the ads and kind of puts it in like a different viewing window, so you don't have all that extra. We have a couple examples. This is one of a teacher did of a Boston Tea Party lesson, and she actually just put everything that she would need to teach, similar that you could do like in EdPuzzle or any of the others as well. And so all of her collection of links, videos, and a document, and then she even has the students respond on Flipgrid, or just your whole lesson cycle is here in this particular Wakelet. And what we love about Wakelet too is it has immersive reader, which is fabulous. So all of this content can be read to your students.
Another great, Jenny mentioned it, student portfolios. We have a high school art teacher who's using it for her art students' portfolios. So as their students are creating art, they upload it into Wakelet. And one of the things she loves about this is they can now take this link, give it to colleges, and showcase their work. But not only that, one of the things that they were finding is certain applications that they were using to create portfolios actually say that they own the work at that point. Those applications do. And so that was very eye-opening for her, because she wanted to make sure that she found an application, especially for aspiring art students, that somebody else wouldn't own their art before it even became famous or important to them. And so that was a reason she selected Wakelet for that. Another way that Jenny and I use it as tech coaches is to create tutorials for our teachers. And so a lot of times we will create quick tutorial how-tos right here in Wakelet, because it's super fast. We just take screenshots, upload them all in one click, and then we can even add videos or different pieces into it that may be helpful. So like here's an example, like step 1, we give the directions and a screenshot. Step 2, here's directions and a screenshot, or you can put in a GIF or even a video. So it makes it fast and appealing to be able to look at and be able to quickly follow directions and learn something new.
Awesome. And one of the things on Wakelet, just to throw it out for because last week we used the two of you as our example, we can search for Wakelets you've created once we're in Wakelet. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. You can follow people, you can save people's Wakelets, and if they've made it edit copyable, you can go and copy theirs and then add to it. So
awesome. And so I saw the student voice shirt first. Now I see a Wakelet shirt up there. So I think you're ready to dive into share some of your resources, Alberto and Mario.
Yeah, we are ready. So many good ideas, right? Like like EdPuzzle, Padlet, Wakelet, Flipgrid. So it is hard to follow all of these like great ideas. So these are like our two choices. We have like, we use Wakelet daily in our classes, but we have chosen like two things to share with you all. And the first one is how to do a Wakelet lesson for remote learning. Or for example, you want to send the content home. So this is an example of a lesson I did for my students and this remote learning situation that we have right now. But you can use it in the classroom as well if you want to send all the content home. So here I add all like the description, title, some like information, and also one really good thing that Wakelet has is that the integration with Flipgrid. So you can record a video directly from Flipgrid here. So this is an example how I record my lesson inside of Wakelet using Flipgrid. So my students will watch the recording of the lesson that I did with Flipgrid, and then they can also like, I add my PowerPoint here, so they can check the PowerPoint, and then a formative assessment, which is I used like Microsoft Forms for that. We use Microsoft, but you can use Google or other thing because they do the same thing. So like I did the video with my lesson and the PowerPoint I used for my lesson, I attached it to the Wakelet collection, a formative assessment, and then other extra materials for them to review if they want to, like YouTube videos, articles, like whatever you want to add, you can add here to this Wakelet. So it's a good way to send work home or to do a remote learning lesson.
And this is another idea, and it's like this is a huge time saver. Like we started to use this thing, and we love it, and we encourage every single teacher to use this because it's for SAP plans, right? One of the things that we dislike the most about being teachers is get sick and then you have to make SAP plans, right? It takes forever and it's very...
You need to be really, really sick to leave the classroom, right? Because no one wants to do the SAP plans. So.
But with Wakelet, you can put everything you want inside of Wakelet as a SAP plans. For example, I always start with morning movement because I like my students to move and to start the day kind of active and all of that. So I put the link of my YouTube, different, dances, jazz dance and all of that. And I added, like, this was first grade, right? So from 9:05 to 9:30 calendar with the Nearpod link. And after that, a PowerPoint that my interns were going to do with the PowerPoint and the OneNote page and all of that. So you can have this, and it's great because when the SAP gets into your classroom, he or she has everything in one place. He or she doesn't have to go, to look at the paper and then find this material and then find this other resource. Everything is in one place. Videos, PowerPoints, lessons, worksheets, everything is in one place. And we really, really love, and it's amazing.
It's so powerful because you just send the link to that SAP. He or she opens the link and everything she needs from YouTube videos to PowerPoints to the schedule of the day is in this Wakelet collection.
No, that's awesome. And I definitely think that's one of the powers I've seen with this. You can add multiple media in there. You can add documents and all of these are great resources. And one of the things that we all talked about on our call this week is that we didn't want to just focus on the remote learning aspect of these tools because we talk about when we return or when it looks like in September, whenever it is we go back, is that a lot of this learning, we don't want to just say, oh, that was for the remote learning. So some of the examples that you just saw with subplans or different things, you can incorporate that into some of what we're doing now, but it's also part of, we're working on instruction and we're working on curriculum and we're working on practices that are lasting and not just kind of a flash in the pan. Oh, this was cool for the month that we weren't in school. These are tools that are going to last. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I know Dave had something you wanted to share for Wakelet, and then Christian, you're going to jump in.
Hey guys. So real quick, before I get into Wakelet, I just wanted to add something because of some of the comments earlier. I just want to make sure people know that with Flipgrid, you can not only add a bunch of topics underneath, but you can export that data so you can see how many views, etc. But more importantly, you can add your own hyperlinks to each grid. So with Flipgrid, you can actually create, it can be more than video, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So in this case, I can create a Google Doc that has participants and has each response and hyperlinks, etc. So you can kind of create it. It's more than just video if that's what you were thinking about. With Wakelet, the eTwins pretty much stole everything I had to say. But but one thing I wanted to bring up that most people don't talk about, and I think it's really important, is for some sort of formative assessment or adaptive learning that you can do. So this is just a test page where I'm basically going to pretend, okay, we're learning about the Ice Age. I'm going to put a YouTube clip in here and I want you to watch it. But then after watching it, I'm going to make the students fill out a survey that says, hey, what's your level of understanding? Did that make sense? Do you need more help? And then we can say, okay, well, if you answered 2 or below on our grid, we want you to go ahead and schedule an appointment with Mr. Hennel so that we can review that. If not, let's move on to the next video, which might be, something creative like this. So one of the things I really like about Wakelet is that. I also want to say another thing that's kind of underutilized is teachers, you can have your students, obviously you can't do this for all lessons, but you can have your students submit the process. So for example, have them submit every assignment 3 times. Have them submit the first draft, have them submit the second draft, have them submit the final product. And they can put that in a Wakelet, and then you can actually see how their learning is progressing, or you can see what is being done as it goes through. So I think that can be really informative for teachers who are trying to figure out where students are struggling, especially in a remote learning atmosphere. But it's also something that we can do for, as mentioned, art projects. It can basically begin creating their digital portfolio or their learning portfolio.
No, and one of the things I like that you brought into this piece of it is sometimes we hear like too much screen time, or how do we assess if technology is making an impact? And both of the things that Dave just showed was how to utilize Flipgrid resource, not only for student voice, as you just heard, how to get some information of how students were using it. And also putting in, we're a Google district and you share Google Form as a quick assessment, or even some of these other tools. So finding those creative ways to ensure students are learning and at the same time moving forward. So Christian, tell us a little about Newsela, and I'd love to hear something from Chris and Heather to wrap it up one big thing.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Thanks for having me, Matt. Wanted to chat just a little bit about a couple of the comments that I heard and share my screen quickly and talk about Newsela. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a regional manager at Newsela, supporting Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. I've been at Newsela for about 3.5 years, and we've really been responsible for building out our regional strategy over the last few years. A couple of things that really struck with me. I've been on a lot of phone calls with teachers and principals and admins in the last few months, especially since Newsela gave access to our platform for free on March 13th to any school district that wanted to use it for the rest of the year. And there's really like four things that I've been hearing as far as challenges when it comes to distance learning, and also, when it comes to what we're thinking about for school for next year, that I'd like to touch on that Newsela really solves for. I think one of the biggest challenges we're hearing is, inflexibility of materials, right? So a lot of materials and core curriculum that were being used in school didn't translate as well to distance learning or to a hybrid approach. Another thing that Sally mentioned around teacher capacity, we're definitely hearing that as well, right? Again, providing more structure and support for teachers as they're trying to transition into this remote learning and then what might potentially be a hybrid approach next year. The equity and accessibility of resources, again, another huge challenge that we're hearing across the folks that we speak to, and that becoming even more important when we think about potential opportunity gaps for our students. And the next piece is really, this balance between agency and choice, but also engagement, right? So that really becomes more of a structured choice, I think, for a lot of folks. I know Matt and I have spoke a lot about that in the past being critical. And I think those 4 challenges Newsela really solves for. And quickly at a high level, for those of you that don't know, I'm just going to share my screen here. Newsela is an instructional content platform that publishes cross-curricular content at 5 different reading levels. So again, you know, our goal in that equity and accessibility piece is near and dear to our heart. So all of our content being leveled at 5 different reading levels, you know, really allows, you know, students to read at the level that's correct for them and still engage in project-based and personalized activities in their classroom. You know, again, the materials that we have, you know, they are printable, they work online. We also have an application that works offline. So if students don't have access to internet at home, or even if they get a hotspot and that's not working, you know, we can solve for that through our offline capabilities. I know that's been a critical piece, especially in some of the remote areas that we're partnering with over the last few months. That agency and choice with engagement piece is critical. So we have the flexibility to allow teachers to curate content and text sets that align to their curriculum. So that kind of balances that structured choice with that engagement piece that I think is really important. Students can also log in and read anything on Newsela independently as well. So we do try to have that structured choice piece be supported, but also, you know, really allow students to go ahead and find information on topics that are most relevant to them, and give teachers access into that so they can see what their students are interested in. And then the last piece is if we don't have content on a certain area, we can actually go out and source it on behalf of your teachers. So we really believe that, you know, achievement is a byproduct of an engaged reader, and that you all know your students better than a company like Newsela or a textbook company ever could. So if there's specific materials that you need to support certain areas, we'll actually go ahead and source that. Quick example, and then I'll kind of wrap up here is, you know, New Jersey just recently passed a law, you know, that mandates the integration of LGBTQIA content across their social studies classrooms. So we actually partnered with 8 school districts in New Jersey to source that specific content and differentiate and level it and roll it out. So again, you know, not just your typical ELA science, social studies content, we can go ahead and source unique content to support your needs.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian. And we're almost at the end, but I wanted to give Chris and Heather one last kind of shout out for one thing that maybe we didn't talk about, an idea that you had before we wrap it up.
Yeah, the only thing I would put in, I believe it was Craig who kept mentioning it in the comments, and he's right, is these things shouldn't be new tools and they shouldn't be just like hammering on things. And like you've been saying, shouldn't be things that are only existing in this e-learning vacuum. And all the panelists have echoed this. And to play on that, what I've always also tried to do is create resources to support this. So tutorials and ongoing tutorials. So that way these things don't exist for just that one project, but that there's sort of this ongoing support. So regardless of whether it's e-learning, in-class learning, mix and match, homework, like whatever, this stuff becomes more innate and more natural. So it's not like we're waiting for something to happen before we do this thing. And that the tech shouldn't be like going to the computer lab and then we're not going to use it. It should just kind of be these natural integrations where things just happen where appropriate and with purpose.
Awesome. Heather, bring us home.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Chris said. I think the biggest thing for me this year was really just to give it a try, and not to be afraid of trying some of these tools, finding what works for your given class and the students that are in front of you, and finding what they can connect with in order to be successful is really the best thing for everybody.
Awesome. Well, we are at 2:01, but I'm going to go one more minute. I'm going to say Christian kept us long because that's just easy to, we have a good relationship. We tease on each other. But one of the things I just want to thank all of you. This was an hour, and for me, it felt like 15 minutes. And all of what we're talking about here is because we're engaged. We had engaging people talking. We had engaging examples. We had information that drew you in and piqued your interest. And I think that is the foundation of what we're doing here in education, and utilizing these tools to engage our learners or engage our adult learners in those learning experiences. So I thank all of you. You are all leaders in the field. We are going to share out this video, and I'm going to share out content that all of them have shared. So thank you for coming this Friday. It is Friday, so I hope you have a great weekend. And thank you all panelists for your information, knowledge, and especially your time. Us at Leicester, thank you for doing this for us and sharing your resources. So I hope everyone has a great day, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Nicole, I'm going to stop the recording.